And today on Showbiz India, it is indeed a pleasure to welcome a very inspiring individual, Mr. Ravi Tilak, the president of Almax USA Incorporated. First of all, thank you for taking the time out during this time and joining us here on Showbiz India.
You're most welcome. My pleasure.
So, Ravi, let's talk a little bit about you and your company. It's very unique, I have to say. Your company specializes in metallurgical plants and supplies all over the world. The term metallurgical, it's not a very common term. I wasn't familiar with it till I met you. Can you explain what is that actually?
Metallurgy is study of metals, just as biomedicine is study of medicines for biological systems. Metallurgy is study of metals and metals engineering to manufacture metals, to use metals, to devise methods of making metals, and so on. So
Wow,
metallurgy is a very interesting field because
sounds
it
like
involves several engineering disciplines. It involves pyrometallurgy, which is high temperature combustion technology, refractory technology, extractive chemistry, metalworking, mechanical engineering, hydraulics engineering, and so on. So it's fun.
So how interesting. How did you embark on this unique field?
I actually wanted to become an aeronautical engineer, but my father directed me to become a metallurgist. And he kind of coined me into it. He said, you know what, aeronautics is okay, great, and everything else, but metallurgy is a witchcraft science. And that word which he used, I will never forget. That's how I got latched into metallurgy. Because in olden days, metallurgy was very synonymous to alchemy. Do you know the meaning of alchemy? Alchemy means you take a normal substance and you combine with another normal substance to prepare a supernatural substance. So metallurgy and alchemy moved quite close to each other. And metallurgy was needed in making swords, in making cannons, in putting together the castle rocks and whatever, including devising poisons or alchemical compounds for good use, of course. Poisons also have good uses.
Wow, how interesting. So was your father in this field or this was something?
No. My father is electrical and mechanical engineer, but he always, I suppose, he was drawn to metallurgy or was fascinated by metallurgy. So at least he wanted his son to be a metallurgist.
And you did become that. And what a
I did.
story you have. You're a self-made man, extremely successful and humble. And I'm sure as most self-made people, there's not one I know that hasn't had their own trials and tribulations. And switching over to today's time, everyone is having trials and tribulations. It's a hard time for everyone. It's a crisis most of us haven't seen in our lives. So what would you draw from your experiences then? And what would you say to us out there that what can we do to stay grounded, positive, spiritual during these times?
See, growth is contagious. And if you are in the growth mode, you see everybody around you in the growth mode, then you naturally, that wave lifts you up. So similarly, fear is also contagious. And if you find somebody gripped by fear, then it is natural tendency within our psyche to be gripped by fear also. So that is one thing we have to keep in mind, that we cannot let ourselves be touched by fear. If you really look at it, fear is the most irreligious thing in the world. The most irreligious thing to be around with is fear. So let's get the fear element out. I know there is a big white elephant sitting in the room. Probably you're feeling it because you're using these words, pandemic and so on. But it's the time that we have to become out of our normal sphere of living. We have to become a little bit of supernatural in order to redress this fear into a very noble cause. because otherwise fear can be destructive, right? So how to become supernatural? That would be your next logical question, I suppose. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like alchemy.
Hmm?
Like alchemy, it's kind of
Right, exactly. Like alchemy, exactly. Everything is alchemy. So my insight or my slant on being supernatural is to feel the pain of the others. And if you can feel the pain of the others, then it works because it quickly brings you into the mode of giving. When we are hungry, we eat. That is natural. When we are not hungry, we still keep eating. That is unnatural. But when we are hungry, somebody else may also be hungry somewhere else, and therefore we keep a little portion of our food for them, is supernatural. So if we can think ourselves into a supernatural mode, it always helps. And that is the best antidote against fear.
very, very nicely said. And I know you're quite a philanthropist as well. And I've attended quite a few of your events that you help organize. And your wife is the CEO of Akshay Patra, that's really helping feed a lot of people in India, even at this time. You have talked about how philanthropy and helps you feel better as well. Talk me through that a little bit.
See, in order to feel better about yourself, the most important thing is to be one with your immediate neighborhood. There is a saying that you can take a man out of a country, but you cannot take the country out of a man. It just remains built in to your entire upbringing, your culture, your whole existence. So similarly, you can be cerebral and you can make yourself more cerebral, but you cannot afford to discard your innate nature. And if you get guided by your innate nature, you will always come out as a winner. So don't try to remove yourself from your own country. That's the best way not to let your own country, by country, it's a metaphor I'm using, that's your innate nature.
Right.
You can live in sync with your innate nature. You will always be at home with whatever is going on around you. And that's the best way to face these pandemics. In my opinion, I think this is a God-given gift. It's indeed a God-given gift to all of us to focus more on ourselves, to move inwardly, to move with more self-discovery, to move with reinventing yourself. Reinvent yourself uh, physically, emotionally, professionally, spiritually, and there won't be any other time that the Mother Nature will allow you to do that except by imposing isolation on you, right? But isolation from outside means intimacy with your inner self. So that's my answer.
That's a beautiful answer. And what are you doing nowadays? Because obviously we're all indoors, to keep yourself grounded, to maintain a certain psyche, or to self-introspect, like you said. What are you doing nowadays?
Well, I'm spending more time exactly following what I just told you. Is what is essential part of my existence and what is the non-essential part of my existence. And you will find out that the non-essential part has occupied you cerebrally more, and the essential part remains buried in your heart or in your innate nature. So every step of the way, you got to go keep finding it. Bhagwan Buddha has said, Appo Deepo Bhava. What it means is every person should become his own light. And if you keep thinking about it, you will you will start embracing silence, and that silence is very precious.
So that was absolutely very, very profound, Ravi. And this is the real Mr. Ravi Tilak, who is an engineer in metallurgical engineering, but in his heart, he is very philosophical, is a philanthropist, a husband, and an extremely, extremely successful person. We thank you for taking this time out of your schedule when things are so hard for so many people. And I'm sure your words are going to uplift a lot of them. They've sure definitely made a difference in my life. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your kind invitation, and I wish everybody the very best.